coming to you live from the Built Forward Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason and Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network and wherever you are in the free Odyssey app. Good Friday morning, a feel-good football Friday, and not in name alone. It actually is. This is what we have been waiting for a long time with one of these two teams. Real hope with some results. Now, I don't know how it's going to work out with Jaxson Dart and Cam Skattebo and this newfound Brian Daboll energy around this team, but this was one hell of a start as they push around, physically beat the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions. And yes, I understand they're going through some stuff, but I don't care when it comes to the Giants, who always lose to this team. Dominate the Eagles on national television behind great defense and two rookies who have changed, at least for the moment, the identity of this football team. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. We have talked about things that have excited us, and then it's poof, it's gone away. But this game does have the potential to be that game where you look back and said, that's when we first got a taste of what ended up being winning football for the first time in a long time with the New York Giants. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, G. I'm doing great. And the other thing, too, that happened yesterday, the Phillies lost. So the Eagles and the Phillies both lost. So I would tell you that this is a great morning for those of us in New York that can't stand Philadelphia teams. And I will say also that we saw this from Jaxson Dart when he first stepped on the field, and they won their first game. And the question was, could they do it in back-to-back weeks? And then it's amazing. This is a nuanced adjustment, but it is an adjustment. And this is great for this young man. Last week, the second half was brutal. You know, you come out of the locker room, you're playing against the Saints, and all of a sudden it's turnover. It's not just him, it's other players as well. But he played a good game. He just was a little bit careless. Last night, the carelessness was gone. And, you know, everybody around him picked it up. It's amazing how we're not going to talk about the offensive line last night. Why? Because the quarterback ran for almost 60 yards, and he got himself out of trouble as opposed to being a statue back there. And he has got energy, he's got life, and he has ignited an entire team. Now, this Cam Skattebo thing is a real thing, too, as well. I don't know if you've seen the social media posts by the New York Giants when they're talking about Cam Skattebo, and they asked the Giant players to do imitations of him before he comes out to practice. And, I mean, everybody from the defensive players to the offensive players, you know, they're all making fun of him, but in a good way, in like a really, really good way. So that energy is palatable on the practice field, is probably in the building over there, and they feel it. And I'm happy for the Giant fans in my life because nobody was texting me last night complaining about what they were watching. And what that means to me is that they were engaged and they really loved what they were seeing. And I will say that the Cordell Flott interception was amazing. I was happy for him too, by the way.
Yeah.
Because it was needed. That's the kind of play that you have to have if you want to double up the score on the team that you're playing against. And taking that back and then giving the Giant offense a short field and them scoring, that's exactly what the Giants have been missing for the last, I feel like, 7 or 8, 9 years.
Yeah, I mean, it was legitimate good football against a good team, and now you've got back-to-back wins at MetLife Stadium, a place that they barely got a win last year at all in their 100th season. And I'm not saying that Jaxson Dart's going straight to the Hall of Fame or in the rafters, but I will say that him being drafted and the similarities that I saw between him and Zach Wilson and coming from Utah and all of that stuff, not really knowing his personality outside of the John Gruden clapping thing, that I was wrong. This guy is not Zach Wilson. This guy is not Daniel Jones. This guy is somebody that has real balls and real guts and real energy. I mean, even when the Giants were playing relatively well in Daboll's first year with Daniel Jones, it wasn't this exciting. No, and I remember that a couple years ago. I'm not just saying this because this happened last night. It was like, oh, they're playing well. I mean, this feels like a full change because of that guy. He looks the part. He plays the part. Yes, miserable last week, but the fact that he can come back on a short week against the defending Super Bowl champions and go out and win that game with the rest of the team like he did shows you so much for a rookie quarterback. You got to be thrilled if you're a Giants fan.
You should be thrilled when you wake up this morning, especially the Eagles coming in, their offense is off. There's something off with Jalen Hurts. I don't know what it is. His numbers are great, but he misses a wide open Devonta Smith for a touchdown. But there is something way off, and I'm wondering if Howie Roseman will do something in terms of trading somebody off of that offense just to relieve whatever tension and pressure there is. Because if you remember before the game, Jalen Hurts was talking about how he, Saquon Barkley, and A.J. Brown had a meeting, and they sat down, talked about the problems with the offense. And then last night after the game, A.J. Brown goes, I don't remember any meeting. And I'm like, oh, God.
Here we go.
So that's their problem. That's good for them, but that's not the Giants' problem. The Giants' situation is completely different. And I think it's funny now because there's nothing wrong with Jaxson Dart. And it just goes to show you how important he is to Brian Daboll. When was the last time Brian Daboll walked over to the medical tent to see whether or not somebody was ready to come back into a game?
Yeah, never. And I don't think I've ever really seen that from any coach, a guy, popping his head in there, and there's probably going to be a fine. But, yeah, obviously. And then he's yelling at the team doctor, which he went on to apologize for. He was caught in the moment. I'm sure he wasn't happy with himself in that situation.
He came out and said, look, man, he goes, I want to go for that son of a bitch on fourth down. I got to know if my quarterback's going to be out there.
Yeah, right.
You know what? So this is like the psychology of winning. It's the deodorant of champion is winning. And when you see him after the game, if they lose and Jaxson Dart doesn't play great or from that point on throws 2 interceptions or something, there's going to be the accusation that he's forcing the player to go back out in the field and all this other crap. But they win. Yeah. Jaxson Dart plays great. And now all of a sudden, the press conference after the game, the discussion and the questions to him after the game, people are laughing because they won. And that is the psychology of winning and losing. And he's had a lot of losing to deal with. And after games, he's been pretty matter of fact. And yesterday he was like, look, man, I made a mistake. I love our doctors. And I'm paraphrasing here. This is kind of like the way he went about it. He goes, man, I wanted to go for that ball, bitch on fourth down. I got to make sure if he's out there.
Yeah.
And that is hilarious to me because that also shows the aggressive nature of Brian Daboll. And he hasn't been able to do that with the guys that he has had. Number one, because the previous guy who's playing great in Indianapolis right now kept getting injured. Yes. Right? And then Russell Wilson is a flat tire. Okay? So now you have this young, rambunctious kid. And this is in New York here now. Think about some of the young players that we have here, from Cam Schlittler to Nolan McClain to Brandon Sproat. Maybe Brandon will be in that conversation, hopefully. You think about this Matthew Schaefer for the Islanders. You think about Cam Scadaboo, and you think about Jaxson Dart. And this is like
nobody on the Jets.
Well, nobody yet. But maybe Armand Membu, but he's an offensive tackle, so you're not really going to know that much about that until they actually get their roster the way they want it. But there are a lot of really good, solid young players and exciting young players that are coming into the professional sports world here in New York, which is got to make the teams excited.
Yeah,
for the players that they have.
And Cam Scadaboo is going and is like a legend in the making for the Giants fan and football fans, because you see a guy like Jaxson Dart, he looks the part. He looks like a quarterback. He looks young, but you can see him maturing, and he's tall, and he commands presence. You see a guy like on the defense, like a Brian Burns, for example, who's a big, intimidating, zero body fat linebacker. And then you look at Cam Scadaboo, and he looks like a kid you're behind in line at Lids at the Smith Haven Mall. Like he's the guy in front of you at the drive-thru at the Taco Bell in Mastic. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And he plays his ass off. Like that's all you want to see is some guy who's out there giving every single bit of what he has on every single play. And he's like a regular guy that maybe your son's friends with that you think is nuts, and you're like, oh, you going out with Cam tonight? Oh, crap. You better be careful. He's just like one of the guys that's in your life, but he's on the Giants and he's changing the culture.
His energy is palatable too. You can feel it, and you can see how the players, his teammates, react to it, which is great, which is what you want. These are the types of players that you want. I was just thinking about this kid and how I see that 44. What do you think of?
Well, John Riggins.
Of course you do, and that's the way he runs. Hopefully he can make it through like 5 or 6 years.
Well, that's the one thing, and I don't want to dwell on those things, but yeah, I mean, the way he plays, it's dangerous.
He is all in, man.
Right,
and
of course.
I love that. And he's always played that way.
But that's how he's gotten to the NFL, so you can't take that away from him. So it is a fine line, but you worry about the longevity of a guy who's playing that balls to the wall. But right now, it doesn't matter.
Isn't that what we want from all of our
Yes,
athletes?
we do.
We do. To the wall. Let it all hang out. Let it go, man.
Yes. But there is, I mean, listen, it's something you think about when you watch him play, but that's the way you want him to play. And then also you want to make sure that Jaxson Dart stays healthy because that's where the energy. He is the sun in which the Giants are revolving around right now.
And I think it also brings out the best in the defense, and it brings out the best in, Kayvon Thibodeau. He may not have a sack or two, but he's made some pretty big tackles last night on Saquon Barkley, who looked like he didn't want any part of that Giant defense.
Yeah.
He had a couple runs, but really, honestly, anything that was in front of him, he didn't want to lower his head.
Yeah.
And so the Giant defense, I think, took him out of the game, which was great. And I don't know if it was the offense of the Eagles that didn't want to give him the ball. They didn't want to run the ball. They wanted to throw the ball. They wanted to pacify A.J. Brown, which does happen. And that may have been the case. But, the other thing, too, is something that is obviously apparent to all of us who watch these games. So the Giants don't need to do the tush push. They just give it to 44 and let them go. Mm-hmm. The Eagles do the tush push, and there's always a false start on the tush push. We all see it. And I want to say maybe it was John Jastrzemski last night on social media on X. I think it was him, and he said, this should be a play that should be reviewable. If the referees and the officials cannot see this, then they should be able to review it, because every time you go back and review it, somebody is moving on the Eagle offensive line other than the football. Right. I think it was him, so I want to give him credit for it because I thought it was really smart. But here's the thing. I'm not against the tush push. I am, however, against a false start penalty because that is an advantage to the offense, and maybe that's one of the reasons why. And I guess you'd have to go back and look at every single one of these tush pushes to see whether or not there's always somebody moving before the ball is snapped, because a lot of times you see, in this case last night, was the right guard kept moving. Like his hands were moving before the ball was even snapped. I mean, that is a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not cheating to do the tush push as other people have tried to say it is. It is cheating when there's a false start and they get an advantage from it. So that's got to be fixed somehow.
That's the thing.
Yeah, so that has to be fixed. It's
because
boring.
I know one thing. If a defender went first, they'd throw the flag.
Oh, of course, yeah, because they'd be able to see that. It's harder to see it with the formation, with the offensive lineman. It stinks, and it's boring, and you don't want to watch it. No one wants to watch it. I don't want to take away something that works for them that's legal, but they're not doing it legally.
I think right. As long as they're doing it legally, I think it's a brilliant, genius play. And, I was thinking, if the Giants wanted to do that, they don't have to do it with Jaxson Dart. They could do it with Cam Skattebo under center.
Yeah, right. They
could. Wanted to. I mean, but I don't know.
But they don't need to, like you said.
Right.
You just hand him the ball and he goes. And you mentioned how important Jaxson Dart is to Brian Daboll and the whole 10 thing. You could also, I mean, he is like over the top affectionate with Jaxson Dart. Like we talked about the playful touching between Travis Hunter and Trevor Lawrence in that commercial. There's a lot of playful touching with Brian Daboll and Jaxson Dart. I mean, this guy, he basically looks at him as the key that will unlock the door to him being the coach here next year.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what he looks like.
I bet you for him, he has recollections of when Josh Allen showed up at Buffalo. Like, he's a little bit reckless. He's got to – now, listen, he threw 2 balls last night that were incomplete that showed me that he has got it. And they were both, like, really touch passes over the defenders.
Yeah.
And it hit Theo Johnson, I think, in the hands – in one situation, then hit one in the back of the end zone. I forget who the wide receiver. I don't know who the receiver was. I think it was the other tight end. I'm not sure. But both of those throws were incredible throws. They were both ended up being incomplete, but it hit the Giants receiver's hands. I wouldn't say it was dropped because the defender gets paid too. And the Giant, he's not throwing it to Justin Jefferson. He's not throwing it to Sam Laporta.
Well, that's the other thing that's so impressive about this.
Right, he's not throwing it to those guys. He's throwing it to guys who are still trying to find their way in the NFL. But it also goes to show you that when you have an accurate, mobile quarterback, and all of a sudden Wan'Dale Robinson's showing up in a lot of plays, and he's holding on to the ball and he's making plays. But that's what happens when you have young, youthful energy that doesn't seem to be overly. Maybe last. I don't want to overdo this, but last week in the second half they were overwhelmed for whatever reason. It happens when you come out of halftime. Sometimes you're a little bit flat. You turn the ball over and things happen, and they start cascading down, and that's the momentum swings in these games. They never let the momentum swing in this game, and when they came out in the second half, they didn't turn the ball over. Yeah, they might have had a 3-and-out. They might have punted, but the defense played, and the defense played reasonably well. And then when you have that Cordell Flott interception, he takes it back, 68 yards, whatever it was. I mean, that's winning football at home.
Yeah, and we talk about some of the losing mentality of players that have been on these teams for a while and all they know is losing. That's one thing that did not happen last night with the Giants. I mean, they came out and dominated essentially from start to finish, believed in themselves, played better than the Eagles, saw how they were vulnerable, rolled them over because of it. And that right there, whether it's Jaxson Dart that's stirring that or they still believe in Brian Daboll or it's many reasons combined, I mean, that is impressive to me because now I can look at the schedule and some of the tougher games and look at them not differently and be like, you know what, this team's not going to roll over and die in that situation. And maybe this matchup isn't as bad as we thought because we're going to get a certain type of energy and certain type of effort from this team. And that, I mean, that changes the whole season. Now, they should have beaten the Saints last week, and they should be sitting here at 4-4. And that Saints team is bad, and they beat the Chargers and they beat the freaking Eagles at home. But from this point on, if you get more of that, then you got a really, really exciting future ahead. So this is good. This is great. And forgive anybody for maybe going a little bit too over the top. Because when you haven't had a taste of something in a very long time and you get a taste of it, sometimes you over-exaggerate. But this one, I don't think that – I think you could say and whatever you want about this performance and not be wrong about it from a positive standpoint because it was that good.
This was a great performance. Now, the next 3 weeks are going to be interesting. And the nice thing is this came on a Thursday night on a short week, and they fixed whatever issues they had down in New Orleans in the second half. That, to me, was really impressive. They got to go to Denver. They're going to have Philadelphia again. Now, the other thing that happened last night before the game that was good for the Giants is that Jalen Carter did not play for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And he is like their Dexter Lawrence. He and Jordan Davis in there are pretty damn stout as defensive tackles, and he did not play. So that was a boon for the New York Giants for sure.
Yeah, and remember, this week, too, the Broncos will be beating the Jets in London, and then they don't have a bye after.
They're coming right back.
They're coming right back. So they've got a regular week after beating the Jets in London, and then the Giants.
Haven't played yet.
Oh yeah, but we know what's going to happen. And then the Giants have a long week. And all they have to do is go from New York to Denver. So that's a pretty good situation, too, for them.
We'll see what happens there. It was interesting. You and I had a great day yesterday. We got a chance to play, Wingfoot with Mikey K and the great Rick Pitino.
Yes, yep.
And afterwards, we sat around, and I was sitting around for a while there just after you had left because you had to do the Sergeant Murphy.
Yes, yeah, Lieutenant Navy SEAL Michael Murphy, yes.
Michael Murphy, yep.
Navy SEAL Museum Gala.
Right, so you had to go, you had to leave. So I'm sitting there talking to Rick Pitino, and I was just asking him his particular opinion about different basketball players and how great they are. And he was talking about LeBron. He was talking about Kobe Bryant. He was talking about all these different players. And I said, what, in your mind, really separated Michael Jordan? He goes, well, there's not that much separation between Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant because of the real want to. And Kobe treated his body as a temple. Michael maybe not so much because he was my era, and I don't necessarily know whether we kind of participated in a lot
some
more
cigars,
stuff.
Whatever, a couple drinks, yeah.
But what Rick said yesterday was that Michael had this competitive gene in him that he still has to this very day if you ever play golf with him. But that competitive gene, very few people really ever have it, and that's what truly separated him from everybody else. And it's very interesting because, this is what Brian Daboll was talking about earlier this week, about the competitive nature of both these young kids that have infused an energy to this team. And I'm sure Abdul Carter's a part of that as well. and some other young players that they have on their team. But these two guys stand out just simply because they have the footballs in their hands. And they're the ones that are running for touchdowns, and they're the ones that are running over people. And Giants love the Mark Bavaro type fullback that's running over people.
Yeah.
And they love to see the quarterback that finally is able to run and stand up and not fall when he's running and not get hurt. Although he's been knocked out of these games because he's a little bit reckless, and that's fine. But that competitive nature that Brian Daboll was alluding to about these two kids has now infected the New York Giants. And let's see, if they can go on the road and win at Denver, that would be like, okay, now you got to take them seriously.
Yeah, the Giants understood the assignment in New York sports. Make yourself interesting, win a game on national TV now that the Yankees are out, and obviously the Mets have been out, and the Jets are the worst team in the league. So they did it. They did it for us. We've got positive Giants talk on WFAN. That's right. You heard that right. And we're going to be doing here on a Feel Good Football Friday all the way to 10 o'clock and all day on WFAN. All right. Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.